Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Masley here in lovely St. Petersburg, Florida, and oh, it's gorgeous today. So welcome to Facebook Live. I've got a bunch of questions already received. Well, I hope to get more. So this is one of the fun things I like to do is just talk with my patients and see how can I answer your questions in a way that's really helpful for you. So let's get started. One of my favorite ones is, how could you avoid blood pressure medications? It's so common today. You know, it's like almost 70% of people by 65 are on blood pressure medications. They can have a variety of side effects. And at least in my clinic, I find that most people don't need them. So, you know, what could we do? So I have Marie Flatley and several other people asking, any chance you can suggest some good ways to lower blood pressure so I don't have to take medications? Yes, Marie, thank you for that. So number one, the average person is eating like really not enough fruit and vegetables. The more vegetables and fruit you eat, usually when you go from average American 2 cups a day to 5 cups a day, your blood pressure drops more than it would from taking a medication. Really powerful. And we're not talking potato chips or potatoes. We're talking like real fruit and vegetables like apples and broccoli, kale, beets, things like that that are really highly nutritious, lots of fiber, and lots of plant pigments. Number two is exercise. People who aren't active, if they start exercising for 30 minutes a day, 5-6 days a week, when you add that activity and you rev up your heart rate, that's as effective as taking a blood pressure medication to lower your blood pressure. If you're overweight and you lose 10 to 15 pounds, that's all it takes. 5, 6, 7 kilos, 10 to 15 pounds. You lose that weight. It's as effective as adding a blood pressure medication. Look at that. We're already at 3 medications gone right there. If you're used to eating sugar or you eat a lot of refined carbs like flour from bread, crackers, and chips, cutting out, just 2 to 3 servings of sugar and refined carbs a day is as effective as taking a blood pressure med. Meditation. Wow. Here's something. When you get calm and relaxed and you meditate or use an application I like HeartMath, using that for just 10 to 20 minutes a day is all it takes to lower your blood pressure as much as you get from medications. When we think about nutrients, probably the most powerful nutrients for lowering your blood pressure are going to be magnesium and potassium. They're really important, and they really do a great job. So for people who are magnesium deficient, that's 70% of folks. Adding magnesium is really going to make a big difference in lowering blood pressure, and adding potassium does too. Really good sources of magnesium are like nuts and seeds and green leafies, but I always refer you to a couple books I have that have charts. Like the 30-Day Heart Tune-Up has information for magnesium and potassium under the nutrient supplement chapter, and you'll find about magnesium in my Smart Fat book as well. So those are just some ideas that if you're struggling with blood pressure control, things you can do that you have better blood pressure control without needing medication. Up next, I got Kathy in Osvaldo from France. All right, here's Kathy's question. I do not drink alcohol except on rare occasions. I drink wine, but it sometimes affects. That could be either the sulfites, and you need to avoid sulfite in the red wine, or it could be that just red wine itself, there's a compound in there that gives some people headaches and migraines. I just came back from Scotland and discovered that you really like single malt Scotch whiskey. Well, let's face it, single malt Scotch whiskey can be pretty good. So here's your question. Is half a shot of Scotch good for your health or not? You've heard about this. Yeah, it's a really good question. So alcohol of any time, wine, beer, or hard liquor, if you have a half to 1 serving a day, will decrease your risk of heart attack and stroke. That's been shown, I think, not drinking at all, a little bit is a health benefit, especially for your heart. Now here's the caveat. It's like a J-shaped curve. So if a little bit is good, adding a lot more really is not. So at 2 servings a day, it's about equal, no benefit to your health, and 3 and 4 servings of alcohol every day. I mean, who are we kidding? Clearly not for your health. Now, we just mentioned heart. What about your brain? Well, for your brain, really, and I'm preparing for this now. I'm reading all these articles because I'm writing this new brain book and getting ready for a new brain PBS show. And when it comes to alcohol and brain and preventing memory loss and enhancing brain function, only red wine really appears to be beneficial in helping to prevent memory loss and improve cognitive function. So red wine works, white wine not, maybe slightly not so much, and beer and hard liquor really no benefit. And if we're thinking about cancer risk, that's interesting. The biggest risk with drinking too much alcohol or even moderate alcohol is your risk of cancer. And you correct that by choosing wine. So wine, it's more flat, up to 1 to 2 servings a day, especially red wine, really not much risk. But when you go past 2 servings a day for wine, your risk of cancer goes up. And for anything like beer or hard liquor, your risk of cancer goes up when you go past 1 serving a day for sure. So if you drink, keep it moderate. Red wine's the best. And if you really wanted to have a half, a serving of single malt scotch every day, Kathy, that would just be fine. Bon appetit and enjoy that. So what's a serving though? A serving is 1.5 ounces of hard liquor, like scotch, 4.5 ounce glass of wine. There's basically 5 servings per bottle, or it'd be like a 12 ounce beer. With Kathy is Osvaldo. And Osvaldo had a question on, could he just eat 2 meals a day and skip lunch? And this is a pretty common thing. I think a lot of people do this. If I was I think the biggest health benefit from maybe skipping eating a meal, it would be to skip breakfast. If I wanted partial intermittent fasting, I think there's an advantage of maybe doing that 1 or 2 days a week, keep your metabolism guessing, create some extra ketones. You could even have coffee in the morning, just don't put any sugar or sweetener in it. So it's just coffee. Coffee with a little fat, like MCT oil, butter, or with a little, just a dab of cream, not very much, just to give it that little white color and take out the bitterness. But yeah, coffee and nothing else from morning until noon, 2 days a week. If I was going to skip a meal, that's the one I would skip because I think you get more ketones. It's kind of a neat way to mix up your metabolism. Missing lunch, you could do it. It's just a challenge to meet your nutrient needs. You got to make sure you get your 10 servings of fiber every day. You could have breakfast, like a shake with greens and, maybe a fiber supplement to it, some berries or cherries, nuts for an afternoon snack, and load up on fiber for dinner. As long as you get your 10 servings a day, that would be good. So yes, you can skip lunch, but I don't. If I'm going to skip something, I'd skip breakfast. But make sure you get your, fiber in and you meet your nutrient needs every day. That would be your challenge. Up next, I got a bunch of people asking about magnesium questions. And magnesium is one of my favorite minerals because, at least in studies done at our clinic, when we have hundreds of patients who've helped to shrink their artery plaque by more than 10%. That means their arteries are 10 years younger. And the number one predictor of shrinking plaque was adding more magnesium and meeting your magnesium needs. So when I look at let's start with a few of these questions. So first up, I had Tish Davidson. She has occasional atrial fib. Now, atrial fibrillation is an abnormal heart rhythm that means part of your heart isn't pumping, and if it doesn't pump, you'd be at risk for a clot forming and having a stroke. So that would be really serious. And Tish eats a high plant vegan diet and doesn't tolerate magnesium supplements. So that's a common thing. the most common magnesium supplements sold are salt-based, magnesium oxide. Very irritating on your stomach. I really dislike magnesium oxide, but that's the most common thing you see in supplement supplies. So much better would be to look for something like magnesium glycinate, magnesium malate, a protein-bound source that won't bother your stomach. But you were asking about, what about Epstein salts, like in a bath? Well, Epstein salts are like magnesium, and they will soak some in through your skin. The challenge is you're going to be hard-pressed to get a really good dose of magnesium topically. So whether you asked about lotions and gels and baths, it's feasible. You'd have to use a lot. It doesn't seem very practical to me. I'd hopefully have you try some protein-bound magnesium and see what. So let's see. Elaine Dodge is asking about this too. Which magnesium do you recommend? So glycinate, magnesium malate, and the dosage. Usually, most of the pills come like at 150 to 200 milligrams. Your minimum need for magnesium is like 400 a day, 600 a day, up to 800 a day. So how much do you get from food? If you eat well, vegetable, fruit, beans, and nuts, and you eat lots of them, and you get your 10 servings of fiber every day, like I recommend, you could see that in my books, many of you could meet your magnesium needs, but the reality is half my patients don't. And so they're trying to eat better. They're eating like some nuts every day, a little bit of beans, some green leafies. And if they take just one, maybe 2 magnesium pills at bedtime, it really seems to make a big difference in making their need and getting their levels up. So that seems to work for them pretty well. So heart arrhythmias, usually atrial fibrillation is not the one I'm thinking most of. I definitely would want to make sure you're not magnesium deficient, because magnesium deficiency can cause cardiac arrhythmias. But usually when we think about atrial fibrillation, that abnormal heart rhythm, that's not going to be dietary related. I would highly suggest you talk to your doctor, perhaps your cardiologist, about whether an ablation might help, a procedure to get you out of that rhythm. Because lifetime-wise, if you're going to live for 30, 40, 50 years, that's a long time to be on anticoagulant medications. And I'm just picking at some of these comments. Regarding magnesium, Kathy Valentine Tomiak is asking about, how about citrate? Magnesium citrate is, I think, much better tolerated than magnesium oxide. But it's good for constipation. So for people who are constipated, magnesium citrate has a benefit. It only has half the absorption though. So you literally have to take twice as much magnesium citrate to get what you would get from the protein-bound sources. So, and yes, you're again asking about calcium. Really good point. When you take calcium, it blocks magnesium absorption. So for people on calcium because they have low bone mass or because you don't tolerate it somehow in your diet, I always prefer you get your calcium from food. But if you are on calcium, it will block magnesium absorption. So I'd always make sure that if you're on calcium, say 600 a day, you'd need at least like 300 of magnesium to go along with it. It doesn't take much. That 2-to-1, 3-to-1 calcium magnesium ratio, it seems enough to offset it. So if you're on calcium, definitely take your magnesium with it. Mary Manuel, she has non-sustained ventricular tachycardia. Now, ventricular tachycardia, that's like if that persists, that could be like deadly. So serious health issue there. My cardiologist wanted me to take metoprolol. Well, I would make sure you don't have an electrolyte magnesium deficiency, because that could resolve it. So please make sure, if I was measuring at my clinic, I'd be looking at red blood cell. It's inside the cell, so the serum magnesium is not very helpful. Red blood cell magnesium level, and I'd like it to be in not the low half of normal, the top half of normal. And if it's in the top to a third half of normal range on an RBC magnesium, that's probably not your issue. And I would talk to your doctor, so I would make sure you're not potassium deficient, you're not magnesium deficient. And then, Mary Manuel, I'd definitely be talking to your doctor and following the recommendations. I'm not a big fan of beta blockers because they can cause symptoms, but if that worked, that would be better than ventricular tachycardia, let's say that. And then Another cardiac arrhythmia question. This one's from Geraldine about Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. That's when you've got this abnormal electrical beat in your heart. There's a short segment in there that makes you at risk to have these rapid heart rates, which are really quite startling. And it's pretty amazing. People are really symptomatic when they show up with these in a doctor's office in the emergency room. You know, your question was, what can we do about this holistically with food and supplements? Or is ablation the way to go? What about flecainide? That's a cardiac arrhythmic drug. So one, I don't know of any nutrient deficiencies with flecainide, but it has many other side effects. You'd clearly have to talk to your doctor about that in great detail. I don't know of any food issues or nutrient things that are really going to reverse WPW, Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. So I would definitely make sure you're not magnesium, potassium deficient. That should be easy, just like I just said a moment ago. And otherwise, I'd talk to your doctor. You would have to make that decision. If it was me and I had that and I was having recurrent arrhythmias, I'd probably go for the ablation. That's what I personally would do, but that's got to be between you and your doctor. My voice is a little bit hoarse today, so if you're noticing that, sorry, I got a little bit of allergies going. I'm going to do the best I can, and we'll just keep going. I had another question from Margaret, who asked me about Dr. John Mcdougall and his starch diet. Now, I've known Dr. Mcdougall, since the 1990s. I've been in debates with him. I've been a moderator when he was speaking with other people on a stage. I've known about his program for a long time. So Dr. Mcdougall is a very low fat vegetarian diet, very low salt, no alcohol, pretty strict diet. Now, compared to an average American diet, the sad standard American diet, I think definitely a Mcdougall diet is better. It's got lots of fiber, it's got lots of fruit, vegetable, beans, nuts. Although I shouldn't say lots of nuts, some nuts. And it's, in that sense, I think it's better than what most people eat. I'm not trying to recommend you have to be on a low-fat diet, though. I think there's smart fats that you can get, like from dark chocolate, from wild seafood like salmon, wild salmon, that olive oil and nuts. Every study we've ever looked at showed they're good for you. So I'm going to disagree with them and just say very simply, you need more smart fat. It's really good for your brain. It's good for lowering inflammation. It's good for your hormones. I think, is his program better than standard American diet? Absolutely. Could you do better? I think so for most people. Now, what about the protein part? I feel better with more protein. So I would like it to be clean protein. So it could be vegetarian protein if you're vegetarian. Add more beans. You could add yogurt. Other sources. But also, I don't have any issue with wild, clean fish, cage-free, organic, pasture-raised poultry. You could have, from my perspective, from a health perspective, you could have grass-fed beef. All those would be okay. It's up to you. It's really your choice. I think it's a pretty healthy program. I would definitely add more smart fat to it. Let's see. Thank you. Oh, the thanks. If this has been helpful information to you as you're listening, what would really be good for me is if you could give me a thumbs up or a heart. It helps my ratings on Facebook. I'd love it. So thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for a heart. As long as this is helpful, I would really appreciate it. Now, what more? I got a whole bunch of questions on statins, and these are pretty good questions. Nick asks, I'm on a 20 milligram statin, and he's taking metoprolol, a beta blocker as well, twice a day, plus an aspirin. I'm 62 years old. I'm in very good shape. I eat really well. I skip bread and meat, sugar, salt. My BMI is well as well. That's his weight is well controlled. I exercise. I'm active all the time. I feel like I'm reversing my heart disease, and I'd like my meds, and I feel like my meds are going to hurt me or not help me. My doctor told me I would need to stay on these meds for the rest of my life. That is frustrating. After reading your book, I feel encouraged I could reverse this disease. Must mean the 30-day heart tune-up. I'm frustrated. Please help me. Okay, so Nick, great question. So let's clarify, though. If you've had a heart attack, that means there's a scar in your heart that sometime in the future could cause a fatal cardiac arrhythmia, and beta blocker people who've had a heart attack, they've injured their heart. I don't know of any way to get around that. I would try a low dose, like less than you're on, 25 milligrams once a day. Talk to your doctor about whether you could lower it, and see if you could take the minimum dose to protect you from one of these fatal arrhythmias. If you haven't had a heart attack, then I don't like beta blockers. When you're on a beta blocker, like for blood pressure or for palpitations, you usually gain weight. About average person gains 5 pounds of fat when they take a beta blocker. It slows fat burn. They can cause wheezing and lung breathing symptoms. They lower your exercise performance. They can cause erectile dysfunction for guys. They can cause depression, and they can lower your energy. How does that sound good? I mean, no, I'm not a beta blocker fan unless somebody's had a heart attack. So I would definitely be trying to wean off of that. And if your doctor's not listening, then I'd get a second opinion. So I think that's would be really helpful there. Now, you said, so if I think you can reverse your artery plaque. We've had hundreds of people reverse their artery plaque, and once your plaque is shrunk and your cholesterol looks better, especially if your blood sugar looks better, I'll stop people from taking their statin meds all the time, and I just monitor their symptoms for a while. So you may need a second opinion. If you're really following my program, I think you can reverse artery plaque, you can really do better, and it can make a big difference in your life. Okay. I can only see one comment at a time. Just talking to my assistant here. All right. Hey, Lou Carlson. I think Lou is from Olympia, Washington. I used to work there. That was a great place to live. I'd like your opinion. I recently developed nystagmus. I ended up getting a brain MRI that showed I had a small lacunar infarct. That means he had a stroke. That's sad. I'm 71, and I read that this is the #1 reason why people have nystagmus. That means their vision kind of twitches, their eye field. It can cause the room to spin. It can make them dizzy. It's really unpleasant. I've had nystagmus before, and I hated it. So that's really a big issue. I'm not overweight. I don't smoke. I'm active. What would you recommend? Well, I recommend my program. We've helped hundreds of people shrink their artery plaque. And the keys to that are adding the right food. Smart fat, clean protein, a lot more fiber from vegetable, fruit, beans, and nuts, and lots of spices and herbs. That really makes a big difference for you if you'll do that. 2, getting fit. So you're active. At some point with a trainer, look at the heart tune-up fitness testing program. Check your fitness out. See how you're doing. Make sure you're doing the right thing. 3, key nutrients. There's a really nice chapter on heart tune-up on helping prevent heart attacks and strokes on the nutrients you need. But magnesium, potassium, fiber, vitamin K, those are just so important. And as well as vitamin D, as well as fish oil. All of those are associated with helping you plaque and shrink plaque so you don't have it in the future. And then stress management, peace and calm, add some meditation. Look at the software app. One of my favorites is Heart Math. Do it 10 minutes a day. If you do all those things, I really believe most people can shrink their artery plaque, make a huge difference, and I want you to be able to do that too. And I'd obviously say do it in concert with your doctor, get your labs checked, and see what else other options you might have. Okay, these have been great questions. Oh, here's another one from Lexi Tejada. What do you advise for patients with high Lp(a) or lipoprotein A? So on your cholesterol profile, if they do an advanced profile and they're looking at the LDL sizes, you can see like these tiny bubbles, LP little a. They're like little bubbles that float in your bloodstream, and they have the potential to grow a lot of plaque. So here's the good news. I have high LP little a, and my arteries are at least 20 years younger than my age. For my artery plaque is 20 years younger than my age, at least. And I have many patients who've been able to, who had very high LP little a, who following my program have been able to shrink their plaque. The caveat is, if you have high LP little a levels, those little inflammatory cholesterol bubbles, you can grow a lot more plaque than an average person when you follow the standard American diet. So if you're eating junk and not exercising and gaining weight, the risk is you could gain a ton of plaque during that time. So really important for you to take care of yourself. But I think the best news here is that if you do that and you do everything right, that it can make a big difference for you, and it will really help. Barry Bundy supplement. Well, hi Barry, I'm really glad you brought in this question. Thank you for joining us. So fiber, the best way to get fiber is adding more fruit and vegetables, beans and nuts. I mean, that's really it. You're looking for 10 servings of fiber a day. That's about 30 grams. So like broccoli, a cup of broccoli is 3, an apple is 3, and a cup of beans would be almost 15. And you want to get 30 grams a day, 10 servings. You can add supplements. There's like psyllium, gluten-free, that a table, and it's kind of slimy when you drink it. So I'd much prefer you get it from food, but I'm okay if, like one of my favorite fiber supplements is one originally out of Canada called PGX, PGX. And it's a fiber source you can take, you can get online, and a tablespoon's about 3 grams, so 10 of those a day, yeah, that's a lot of that stuff to have to take. So much better is to get as much as you can from vegetable, fruit, beans, and nuts. And if you need to take a supplement, you can. Like in my smoothie, there's some extra fiber in my protein. I have some green leafies in there. I had frozen cherries this morning with my almond milk and protein powder, and you could put a scoop of extra fiber in there. That'd be great. That'd be fine. So, Barry, that was a good question. And then Karen DeHaas. I'm sorry, I just was able to connect. Yes, you can watch this program when it's over. So if you just signed up now and you're late, no worries, no problem. You can just, after it's over, you can go to the Facebook page and click on it, and you can see the whole thing. So you can go back to the beginning and watch up to this point, and you'll be all caught up and you won't have missed a thing. So that was a great point. I'm really glad that you brought that up for me. What about gluten-free? That was another question in there. So 20%, that's a lot. 20% of people are gluten sensitive. They make antibodies that attacks gluten. And gluten protein can look a lot like human protein. It can look like your brain, your joints, your thyroid, your gut, your sinuses. And you can have a lot of symptoms from that. So if you're thinking maybe if you have sinus problems, brain fog, thyroid problems, gut issues, especially bloating, constipation, heartburn, joint achiness, really you got to think, could I be gluten sensitive? And go on a totally gluten-free diet for at least a month, at least 30 days, totally gluten-free. In our clinic, we'll do a test like Cyrex Labs. That's probably the gold standard for measuring for gluten sensitivity and gluten antibodies. It's pricey though. It's in the $400 for a test. So it's free to go on a gluten-free diet for a month and to see if you've got that. It's been transformational for some of my patients have always felt poorly. They were achy. They had no energy. Their joints hurt. They had brain fog, and they're always bloated, and they couldn't lose weight, resistant weight loss. They couldn't lose weight. And when they followed a gluten-free diet, I've had people get rid of all those symptoms and lose 40, 50 pounds. So, pretty amazing results. So anybody with Quentin should at least try it. It's not going to work for everyone. Not everyone's gluten sensitive, but I would certainly think out there. Kathy Valentine told me, again, another good question. Thank you for popping in. What protein powder do I recommend? Well, personally, I like whey protein. It's smooth, it's creamy, I like it in my palate, and I'm looking to get at least 20 grams with my breakfast. So I'm looking for grass-fed, super clean, not pesticide and hormone enriched, grass-fed, super clean whey protein. I love the shake, the flavor of my protein we've got in our heart shake right now. So for me, that's awesome. But let's face it, 10 to 15% of people are dairy intolerant, and dairy causes them all sorts of grief. So if you don't tolerate dairy, please just stay away from it. And I think the rice pea proteins are great, a great option for that. So that's a choice, rice pea protein. Some of the brands are a little gritty, so you need to try them around, sample them, and find one for you. There's just a picture of my favorite shake. That's what I take most mornings. Myself, at least 5 days a week. So whey protein, rice pea protein, and something in gaining popularity. If you eat meat, there's a beef protein out there. Designs for Health has it. It's been pretty popular. It's like becoming one of their more popular shakes. Just make sure, obviously, it's got to be grass-fed, clean, which theirs would be. So just make sure. Those are your options. I prefer whey protein myself. I'm not dairy intolerant, but I'll leave that one up to you. All right. I'm going to peek at this. Boy, I've got so many. I'm so grateful to you guys for turning these questions in. They've really been excellent. And there was some in here on resistant weight loss. Okay. Several people, like Debbie, asked about, can you say more about body fat? I can't seem to get that number to bulge. Other people said, I've tried everything and I can't lose weight. So what do we recommend for people with resistant weight loss? Well, in our clinic, I've got like an easy 6-pack of tips. So 6 tips to get your 6-pack back, to get rid of the body. Number 1, don't drink your calories. I mean, when you drink calories, you get calories, but you don't get any fullness. So unless it's like a shake with protein and fiber that makes you full, protein and fiber, the things that really fill you up, there's no like with juice. One of the craziest thing is to drink juice thinking it's a nutrient source when it's just extra calories. You'd be better off eating an orange than having orange juice, or an apple instead of apple juice. So number 1, don't drink your calories, and remember alcohol has a lot of extra calories too. Number 2, eat more foods that make you satisfied so you're not hungry. In other words, eat more protein and fiber. Adding more protein and fiber in almost every study out there has helped people lose weight. You're not going to gain weight by eating carbs if the carbs are from broccoli and an apple and from black beans. Number 3, exercise. I mean, duh, but I mean, a lot of people don't realize it's the combo that's so effective. Combining strength training with some aerobic, like interval training, where you push it. You do like these 10-minute sets of hard, easy, hard, easy, hard, easy. Sprint, walk, really intense for 1 minute, easy for 1 minute. Mixing up interval training with a strength training on the side where you're doing some weights or elastic bands. That is by far the best combo for not gaining weight back. So adding activity is the best predictor. When we look at the North American Weight Registry, that's like thousands and thousands of people who've lost more than 30 pounds and kept it off for a whole year. The best predictor of not losing it back, the best predictor of not losing weight, I have trouble saying that. The best predictor of losing weight and not gaining it back is activity, daily activity, and strength training. So aerobic, strength training, combine them together, you get the best results. Now, what are the things we find in our clinic for resistant weight loss? One of them is many people have a low calorie burn rate. Well, what does that mean? It means when they come in the clinic in the morning, we put on a mask, we have them try to fall asleep. First thing, they just get up, they crawl in here. They're not even allowed to take this. The only day of the year they're not allowed to take the stairs coming to our clinic. We want them to take the elevator. They come in, they lie down, they try to fall asleep. We measure their calorie burn rate, their oxygen burn rate, kilogram per minute of oxygen burn. Some people amazingly have very low calorie burn rates. You know, I'll meet women who only burn 800 calories at rest. they're on a 1,400 calorie diet, they're exercising 400 calories a day, and they're basically gaining weight. It's totally unfair. So when we identify someone with a very low basal metabolic rate, there's lots of things we can do to impact. We can add intervals, we can build muscle mass, we can check their blood sugar and insulin response. Are those out of balance? Do they have high mercury levels? So if they have a low metabolic rate, let's fix it. Because just dieting is not going to be enough. It's not going to work. Another thing that's super helpful for people with resistant weight loss means they've tried everything, they've eaten well, they've exercised, the weight doesn't come out. I ask them to try an elimination diet. Top food allergies, gluten, dairy, corn, soy, sugar, sweeteners, give those up for a month. It's pretty amazing how successful some people are when they follow an elimination diet. And probably the newest has to do with your microbiome, your gut. We know if you've got the right bacteria in your intestinal tract, it helps you lose weight. And if you get the wrong ones, you gain weight. An example, people come to the doctor, they get an antibiotic, we treat them, they gain weight for 6 months. We wiped out their good bacteria. There's actually studies now, lots of studies in mice, that if you take the bacteria from the gut, from a skinny mice, and you transplant it into a fat mouse, the mouse loses weight. And if you take a fat mouse and you take their gut bacteria and you transplant it into a skinny mouse, the mouse gains weight. I mean, amazing. Now, in the United Kingdom, we're talking about doing this for patients who've got, they're on the list for bariatric surgery, a major surgery. Well, I would definitely try one of these fecal transplants first. Here in the U.S., we can't do fecal transplants for weight loss, but we can take probiotics. We can eat fiber to give you more fiber, and that fiber is what your bacteria use in your gut to survive. You need fiber or they just die right off. And you can take a 30 to 60 billion probiotic supplement. We have some in the office I really like. They have multiple organisms. They're, exceptional quality. But you need to take like 25, 30, 60 billion every day for 2 to 3 months to make a difference, especially if you've been on antibiotics or something like that. Now, Ken Twind is asking about how do you relieve chronic constipation? Well, probiotics and fiber are really the top two. By far, you have to make sure you don't have a thyroid problem. You don't have low thyroid. That's an easy thing your doctor can check. If you're 40 or 50 and above, you have to make sure you don't have colon cancer. There's screening you're supposed to be doing, like they check your blood for stool, and after 50, you're supposed to get a colonoscopy every 5 to 10 years. Don't miss, a serious problem. But the most effective treatments are going to be add more fiber, 10 servings a day, 30 grams a day, add more probiotic, add activity when you move, your gut moves, and drink more fluid. We need water, so I'm trying to sip away on my water here. Drink more water every day. So those are the themes I use to relieve chronic constipation. And if that's not working, then you definitely would need to see a doctor and get an evaluation. How about on probiotics? I had Sharon from Michigan asked me, right now I take a probiotic and I've read about prebiotics. What does that mean? Well, prebiotic is the fiber that nourishes a probiotic bacteria. So you've got healthy bugs, microbes growing in your microbiome, your intestinal tract, and they need a food source, and that food source is fiber. So you can take a prebiotic supplement that might be like apple peel or something like that. Or you could I would just eat more fiber, to be honest. I would eat more vegetable, fruit, beans, cholesterol, improves your blood sugar, helps you lose weight. It's good for your gut. It lowers your inflammation. It improves your blood pressure. So that if for some reason you're limited and you can't do that, then I think these prebiotic supplement choices are fine. But I prefer you get it from food. That's really the key to me. I'm just checking some of these questions. Aspirin for a heart attack. So Maria is asking, what do I think about taking aspirin for a heart attack? So here's the balance. If you add aspirin, you're less likely to have a heart attack or stroke from a clot forming and impacting your heart and brain. On the downside is you're more likely to bleed. So if you're in a car wreck, you bleed more. If you had a little stroke, a vascular stroke, you could bleed more from that. If you're in an injury, you're going to bleed more. So who benefits? If you're high risk for a heart attack and stroke, check with your doctor, but very likely you would be better off taking a baby aspirin every day. Absolutely. If you have no cardiac risk factors, taking an aspirin every day is probably more likely to give you a GI bleed or some other cause of bleeding than it would be to benefit you. So I don't recommend it for everyone. You have to balance that and work it out with you. And I think that's always a really good question to ask your own personal doctor too. All right, I love the questions coming in. I had this question from Nadine. Hi, Dr. Masley. I have existing heart disease. Well, sorry to hear that, but I do have a program I think that can help. I'm desperate to find the tools I need to stay alive. Have you seen this disease reversed? Yes, I've helped hundreds of my patients, my own patients in my own clinic, probably thousands nationwide, help to reverse plaque growth in their arteries and reverse heart disease, improve their blood pressure, get off their diabetic meds, get off their blood pressure meds, transform their lives. But it does require change. It means adding healthy food, being active, managing your stress, and meeting your key nutrient needs. But if you can do those things, wow, it's amazing what you can accomplish. So Nadine, I can tell you really sound frustrated. It's even scary, right? It's very scary to have cardiovascular disease, to be at risk for a heart attack and stroke. But I think I would definitely talk to your doctor, work with them. I would make sure you've got the 30-day heart tune-up, my book that focuses on how to tune up your heart and prevent and reverse heart disease. I'd be very confident you can make a difference. So I hope that's helpful. And again, if any of these comments have been helpful, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up or click on that heart button. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, a few more. All right, well, here's a serious one. Let's take this one. Can anything natural be done to eliminate mycosis fungoides? Now, mycosis fungoides is a form of cancer, actually cutaneous skin form of lymphoma. So if you've got cancer, there's a lot you can do with your lifestyle and your diet to help your health. But I'm going to always say, you need to talk to your doctor. You probably need at least to visit with an oncologist to get a second opinion. And here's the good news. The healthier you are, the better you eat, the better your immune function is, the more likely you're going to have a long, healthy life, whether you get lymphoma or another cancer or not. It helps suppress cancer and helps keep it in remission. Meeting your nutrient needs and helping your immune system can help keep it in remission. So there's lots you can do. Definitely you need to be seeing a doctor. I don't have any magical cures for cancer. I'm not going to pretend that. I'm going to be straightforward with you. But I'd really focus on and keeping your blood sugar down. High blood sugar levels feed cancer like fertilizer can feed, if we're looking at fertilizing weeds, they're going to grow faster. Well, that's what sugar does. Cancer cells, they usually can't use anything but sugar to survive. But your body cells, your human cells, they can use other fuel sources like fasting. They can use ketones. So the idea of getting your blood sugar levels way down, eating lots of fruit and vegetables, beans and nuts, super helpful. Definitely talk to your doctor. I'd be optimistic. Many people can have this problem for 10, 20 years and have a really wonderful life without any issue, but it varies dramatically depending on the quality of your life and the quality of your health. So please check into that. I've got Jody from Wisconsin, And here's a question from Jody. Okay, in your book, Smart Fat, you have a rule of 5 proteins, 5 smart fats, 10 servings of fiber each day. What about the things that overlap, like an egg? Can I count that serving as 1 of smart fat and 1 of protein? That's a great question, and absolutely you can. So, like dark chocolate, that counts as fiber, awesome flavor, and smart fat. An egg, as long as it's a cage-free, organically fed chicken who made that egg, you get to count it as a smart fat and a smart protein. So that's really, I think, great. And Valentine, well, thank you. You love my book. I appreciate it. I love the feedback. I hope it's been helpful for you. Difference. So yes, you do get to count double foods. I think they're always fantastic. Wild salmon, that's like protein and smart fat. You get to count both. So go for that. Now, this is a complicated one. Now, Jody's husband has dealt with toe fungus for years. And she's wondering if it's related to yeast infections. What do I think about yeast? Oftentimes, toe fungus, toenail fungus, is from a damaged nail. When you have a damaged toenail, you can get fungus growing in the nail. It's really hard to get rid of. There's tons of drugs. You can get rid of it 80% of the time, and as soon as you stop them, it comes back 80% of the time. But the drugs for toenail fungus can cause liver problems, kidney problems, bone marrow problems. Not really recommended if you're going to be facing an 80% relapse when you stop them. Better, there's some topical drugs you can put on. They make your nail look better as long as you keep using them. I don't think you can say, hey, you can cure this and it's going to go away. There's some toenail laser treatments they do to blast it out and get rid of it, but again, it comes back. And people who have toenail fungus, they get athlete's foot fungus a lot more often because it's constantly being fed. So the tricks to keep tinnitus down are to manage a toenail fungus if you can. If you keep getting it over and over, that'd be a reason to think about one of those shellac medications you could get from your doctor. But keeping your feet dry, that's critical. Some people just have sweaty feet, and that provides this moist environment for foot infection. So to me, moisture is much more of an issue for your foot fungus than your diet. And I don't think, excuse me, I don't think that that your diet is going to make much impact on a foot fungus at all. So should you avoid yeast? I'll leave that up to you if you have any GI issues and they seem to bother you. Some people seem to have food intolerances with yeast intake, but I wouldn't associate it with that kind of thing. What do I think about apple cider vinegar? It is all over you're right, Kathy. It is all over the internet, and really good point. So vinegar, when you have vinegar, it improves stomach acid, it enhances digestion. They've even used it in weight loss studies. If people had a tablespoon of vinegar with the meal, they actually lost some weight. Probably because it improved digestion and they didn't have a blood sugar spike. They had a smoother rise in blood sugar after the meal. So that actually is a good idea. That's why if you have salad with vinegar, olive oil and some red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, something like that, it really is good for you. And a lot of people benefit, excuse me, a lot of people benefit from having vinegar on a regular basis. So I think we're coming up on the end of the hour. I got a couple more questions here, and then I'm going to say goodbye till next time, but let's keep answering them. What about limiting sugar to starve yeast? Well, it's not just the yeast. When you eat extra sugar, you can grow yeast in your gut, which is really problematic and inflammatory. You also grow bad bacteria, like Firmicutes bacteria that promote weight gain. In fact, Firmicutes bacteria in sugar and refined carbs like bread and crackers, they make propionic acid. And the propionic acid goes to your brain and goes to the craving centers and makes you crave more sugar. So bacteria are smart enough in your gut. They know how to increase your cravings and get you to eat junk so that you can't control your eating behavior. So the solution is stop eating sugar, stop eating refined carbs, get that out. It'll get rid of the bad Firmicutes bacteria and put you back in balance. You can have some, but not in excess. It gets rid of the excess yeast in your gut. So absolutely, there's 100 reasons why you want to cut down on the sugar in your diet. And then maybe my last one in here has to do with benign prostate hypertrophy. That's prostate enlargement. Now, for guys, well, how do I say this? Are going to develop prostate problems by the time they turn 88. So the prostate is like this gland that helps make fluid for, it makes the fluid that's in an ejaculate. There you go. And that gives you, what it does is it helps sperm survive and all that for fertility. But the prostate's going to grow over time, and over a lifetime it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. All men are going to have a larger prostate at 90 than they did at 30. And if it grows too much, eventually it's going to block the blood supply from the bladder that goes out through the urethra that helps you pee. So over time, as it grows, you lose urine flow. So 88% of men by age 88 are going to have a problem to the point that they're getting up multiple times a night to pee, they can't empty their bladder, and they may be looking at drugs or surgery as a solution to that. Boy, I really wish I could give you some dietary issue that would make that go away. I don't really know of any. I do recommend that the healthier you are, the better you do. And but I can't promise you're not going to get prostate issues. So unrelated to prostate cancer, which I would recommend, I offer screening to my men. As long as they've got at least 15 years to live and they're in good health, I offer prostate cancer screening. I don't associate that with, it's not really related to mild prostate enlargement. And I definitely have you talk to your doctor. If you're having symptoms of having to pee all the time, having to get up at night to pee, I would talk to your doctor about solutions. I don't have anything for you there. So, wow, awesome questions. I really appreciate your involvement. This was really a nice session. I do thank you. This has been helpful. Please put in those thumbs ups and likes. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you next time. If you click on follow, you'll get my messages. Like we're going to do a live show. It'll say you can click on your phone. You can click on the video, and you'll see a follow button and click on it, and that'll help you follow me. So when we're going to be live, you'll get a notice. And on the regular format, you've got to click that follow button on there to follow along. I do appreciate your time, your questions. I'm Dr. Stephen Masley, and I wish you the best of health.